I found a GPS tracker under my truck while changing oil. Professional installation. Still warm, meaning someone had just put it there. At 70 years old, why would anyone need to track me? To find the truth, I mailed that tracker to Canada. I didn't tell anyone. I just waited, watched, listened. 12 hours later, my son's phone started ringing nonstop. His face went white, and that's when I knew who'd put it there. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment below. Where are you watching this from, and what time is it there right now? I want to know how far this story's reaching. The Saturday morning oil change was a ritual I'd kept for 40 years. Same time, same routine. Slide the creeper under the F-150 drain, the old oil replace the filter, fill it back up. My joints complained more than they used to, but I could still do the work myself. Always had. Always would. That's when my hand hit something that shouldn't have been there. I stopped. Felt around the undercarriage again, this time paying attention. My fingers found metal, smooth and foreign, not part of the truck. I grabbed the flashlight from my toolbox and rolled back under. The beam caught it immediately. A black box about the size of a deck of cards magnetically attached to the frame. A tiny LED blinked red in the darkness. Professional installation. Industrial-grade magnet. This wasn't some cheap toy from an electronics store. I'd been a mechanical engineer for 4 decades before I retired. I knew equipment. This was expensive. $300, maybe $400. And it was still warm to the touch. Not warm from the Montana sun, it was barely 60 degrees out here in October. Warm from recent use. Someone had installed this thing recently. Very recently. I didn't rip it off. That would have been stupid. Instead, I took photos from every angle with my phone. Close-ups of the serial numbers stamped on the side. Wide shots showing exactly where it was mounted. I documented everything the way I'd been trained to document mechanical failures back in my engineering days. Then I grabbed a paper towel from the workbench, carefully wiped my prints off the device, and removed it. The magnet released with a soft click. I wrapped it in a Ziploc bag and carried it inside, leaving the oil change half finished. At my kitchen table, I stared at the thing through the plastic. GPS tracker. Had to be. But who would put a tracker on a 70-year-old man's truck? I mentally ran through the list. Only 3 people had been in my garage this past week. Jim, my neighbor, 2 plots down. 75 years old, barely knew how to use his flip phone. No way Jim installed something like this. The propane delivery guy who'd filled my tank on Monday. But he was a stranger, didn't know me, had no reason to track some random customer. And Dylan, my son, who'd stopped by Tuesday afternoon, supposedly to check on the horses. I sat back in my chair thinking. Dylan had spent 15 minutes in the garage alone. Said he was checking the tire pressure on my truck. Being helpful. Making sure the old man's vehicle was safe. Except Dylan had never cared about those horses. Not once in 35 years. And checking tire pressure doesn't take 15 minutes. My engineer's mind started putting pieces together. The warmth of the device meant it was active transmitting. Someone was watching where I went. Someone who needed professional equipment to do it. I looked at my phone at Dylan's number in my contacts. My thumb hovered over it. No, I'd learned something in 40 years of solving mechanical problems. Never jump to conclusions without data. Test your hypothesis first. Observe the system. See what breaks when you apply pressure. I opened the drawer in my kitchen desk and dropped the Ziploc bag inside. The truck would stay in the garage. I wouldn't drive anywhere, and I'd wait to see who asked questions. If someone was tracking me, they were about to get very confused about why I'd suddenly stopped moving. I closed the drawer and looked out the window at my quiet ranch. 3 people had keys to my garage. Only one of them knew trucks well enough to install a tracker properly. My son. I didn't call Dylan, didn't confront him. I did what I'd learned in 40 years of engineering, test the hypothesis before drawing conclusions. Sunday morning came quiet. I fed the horses, mended fence, cleaned the barn. Normal weekend work. The F-150 sat in the garage untouched. The tracker sat in my desk drawer, silent. My phone never rang. Monday I stayed close to the house. Repaired the porch railing, organized the tool shed, made chili that would last the week. Still no reason to drive. The truck stayed put. At 2 in the afternoon, my phone buzzed. Dylan. Hey, Dad, just checking in. His voice had that casual tone people use when they're trying too hard to sound casual. I'm fine, I said. Waivuba, no reason. Haven't heard from you. Your truck running okay? There it was. Not, how are you feeling? He asked about the truck. Actually, I'm having transmission trouble, I said. Keeping it in the garage for now. His voice shifted, got tighter. What's wrong exactly? Where are you taking it? How long will it take? 3 questions in 5 seconds. That wasn't concern. That was panic barely controlled. Just some slipping between gears. Probably needs new fluid. I'll get to it when I get to it. But why are you asking so many questions about my truck? Silence on his end. Then I just want to make sure you're safe. At your age, car trouble can be dangerous. I'm 70, Dylan. Not dead. I hung up. Dylan didn't call to check on me. He called to check on the truck, which meant he was watching it. Tuesday morning, I was pulling weeds when the phone rang again. Dad, hey. Dylan sounded breathless. I was thinking maybe I could visit this weekend. Sure, I said, but the truck's still not fixed. You're sure it's just the transmission? His voice went up half an octave. Nothing else wrong with the truck? I stopped pulling weeds. That was too specific. What else would be wrong with it? He stammered. I don't know, just making sure. Old vehicles can have multiple problems. It's fine, Dylan, just the transmission. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table. 2 calls in 3 days. Dylan normally called once a month, if that, and both times he'd asked about the truck. Not about me, not about the ranch. The truck. I opened the desk drawer and looked at the Ziploc bag. The tracker's LED still blinked, read patient and persistent. My engineer's brain started connecting dots. 6 months ago, Dylan had helped me set up Wi-Fi. Insisted on doing it himself. 3 months ago, he'd fixed my laptop when it was running slow. Spent an hour alone with it. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern. Dylan hadn't been helping me. He'd been preparing for what I didn't know yet. But the tracker wasn't about keeping me safe. If it were, he wouldn't be panicking when I stayed home. This was about control, about knowing where I was at all times. Tuesday night, I sat in the dark and thought about my son, about the boy who'd learned to change oil beside me in this garage, who'd grown into a man I apparently didn't know anymore. If Dylan was this desperate to track my movements, there had to be a reason, something that made him willing to lie to his own father. I needed to know how far he'd go. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I hadn't called in years. Ray Fletcher, long-haul trucker old friend and a man who asked no questions. Time to give Dylan something to really worry about. Ray Fletcher answered on the second ring. His voice was rough, from 35 years of diesel fumes and truck stop coffee. Frank, you know what time it is. 6 a.m. and I need a favor. Must be important if you're calling this early. Can you get something to Winnipeg for me? Silence, then a low chuckle. What kind of something? The kind you don't ask about. 20 minutes later, I met Ray at the I-90 truck stop just outside Bozeman. The Montana morning was cold fog, still clinging to the asphalt. His rig sat idling, engine rumbling like distant thunder. I handed him a small box, the tracker wrapped in bubble wrap and sealed with tape. No return address, no labels. What's in it? Ray asked, turning it over in his thick hands. Nothing dangerous, nothing illegal. Just needs to get to Winnipeg. Don't open it. Don't let Border Patrol scan it if you can help it. Ray looked at me for a long moment. We'd known each other 20 years. Fixed each other's vehicles, shared beers at the 4th of July barbecue, buried our wives within 2 years of each other. He knew I wouldn't ask unless it mattered. You're a weird old man, Morrison. I know. This gonna come back on me? No. He nodded, tucked the box behind his seat. I'll text when I cross the border. His truck pulled away, north red taillights disappearing into the fog. I watched until I couldn't see them anymore, then drove home. The waiting was the hard part. I fed the horses, checked the fence line, made myself a sandwich I didn't eat, kept my phone in my pocket, volume turned all the way up. 2 p.m. Nothing. 5 p.m. Still nothing. At 7, my phone buzzed. Text from Ray, cross-border, package delivered to your friend. I typed back, thanks, I owe you. 8 p.m. I was washing dinner dishes when my phone rang. Dylan. Hey, Dad, how's it going? Too cheerful. Forced. Making dinner, I said. You. Just checking in. You home. Where else would I be? Right. Truck still broken. Still working on it. So you're at the ranch, not driving anywhere. I set down the dish towel slowly. Dylan, what's this about? Nothing, just making sure you're okay. His voice was tight, stretched thin like wire about to snap. 9 p.m. The phone rang again. Dad, where are you? Not a greeting, a demand, raw panic. I'm at home, where I've been all day. Why are you yelling, your truck? Are you sure you're at the ranch? Son, are you drunk? In the background, Brittany's voice cut through sharp as glass. Give me the phone. No, let me. Dylan muffled, arguing with her. Dylan, what the hell is going on? His voice dropped to almost a whisper. Dad, we need to talk. In person. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. It's important. Really important. Don't go anywhere tonight, okay? Just stay home. I'm 70 years old. Where would I go? After I hung up, I sat in the dark kitchen for a long time. Dylan hadn't asked if I was okay. He'd asked where I was, which meant he had the tracking app on his phone right now, watching, seeing his father's truck make an impossible journey 1,500 miles north across the Canadian border. My son had been watching my every move, and now that he'd lost me, he was terrified. Good, let him sweat. Tomorrow I'd find out what else he'd been doing. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something Dylan said kept bothering me. Are you sure you're at the ranch? How would he know if I wasn't? The tracker was in Canada, unless there was another way he'd been watching me. At 1 a.m., I walked to my office. The laptop sat on my desk. Dylan had helped me set up Wi-Fi 6 months ago, insisted on doing it himself, and he'd fixed it 3 times when it ran slow. I opened Task Manager. Dylan had taught me that, once ironically. I scanned the running processes. Most I recognized. But one stood out, Remote Access Service.exe. I stared at it for a full minute. I almost Googled it on the laptop, then stopped. If someone was watching my screen, they'd know I'd found it. I pulled out my phone and searched there. The results made my hands shake. Remote desktop software allows someone to view your screen access files, control your computer from anywhere. I checked when it was installed, 6 months ago, the exact day Dylan had helped with Wi-Fi. I dug deeper into the file access logs. Recent files accessed remotely bank statements, legal documents, emails, property deed, all accessed when I wasn't home. Someone had been reading everything, my accounts, my passwords, my entire financial life. I wanted to uninstall it immediately. But if Dylan was watching, he'd know I'd discovered it. Better to leave it. Let him think he still had access. I closed the laptop carefully and sat in the dark. Tracker plus spyware. Location and finances. Why would my son need both? At 2 a.m., I walked to Jim's house and knocked quietly. He answered in his bathrobe, squinting. Frank, what's wrong? Can I use your computer? Mine's acting up. At 2 in the morning. Please, Jim. He stepped aside without another word. Good neighbors don't ask questions they don't want answered. I sat at his old desktop and started searching. Remote Access Software Illegal. Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Federal crime. Up to 10 years in prison. Then I searched for the tracker's model number from my photos, found the manufacturer's website, read the product description. My blood went cold. Advanced Vehicle Control System. Remote Engine Shutoff. Brake Control. Full ECU integration. Remote Engine Shutoff. Not just tracking. Control. I searched Remote Engine Shutoff while driving and found videos. One headline, Kill Switch Devices, the New Murder Weapon. I clicked play. A car driving highway speed. 65 miles per hour, then suddenly engine cut. Brakes locked. The car spun out of control and slammed into the guardrail. Test track, professional drivers, safety equipment. But the message was clear. On a real highway, the driver wouldn't survive. I sat back, numb. Dylan hadn't just been watching me. He'd installed a weapon on my truck. He could kill me with a button press on his phone. While I was driving to town, on the highway, anywhere. I thanked Jim and walked home through the cold Montana darkness. My son had the ability to murder me remotely. One button, one moment, dead. The question wasn't if anymore. The question was why. At 6 a.m. Thursday, I made 2 calls. First to Robert Mitchell, who'd handled my wife's will 10 years ago. Second to Chuck Morrison at the auto shop. By noon, I'd know if I was paranoid, or if my son was really trying to kill me. Mitchell's office was downtown 3rd floor of an old brick building. I arrived at 9 with a USB drive full of screenshots from Jim's computer, photos of the tracker, evidence of the spyware. Frank. Mitchell stood from his desk, concern already on his face. What's wrong? I handed him the USB drive. He plugged it in, clicked through the files. His expression darkened with each image. This is surveillance without consent. Potentially a felony. There's more, I said. I think someone tried to file power of attorney under my name. Mitchell's fingers went still on the keyboard. You think, or you know. I need you to check. He turned to his computer, accessed Montana state records. 5 minutes of typing, then he looked up at me. Frank, sit down. I was already sitting. 2 weeks ago, someone submitted a durable power of attorney with your signature. The notary office flagged it. The ID looked suspicious. I tried calling you, but I was at the fishing cabin. No cell service for 4 days. He nodded, turned his screen toward me. The signature looked 95% real, almost perfect. If I hadn't caught it, Dylan would have legal control over everything. Your ranch, your pension, your medical decisions. Everything. How would he get my signature? The spyware. He could scan old documents, manipulate images. Mitchell paused. Frank, he can try again, and next time he'll be more careful. He pulled another file from his drawer. 3 days ago, someone used your property as collateral for a loan. The room tilted slightly. That's impossible. The ranch has been paid off for 12 years. I know. The title company flagged it and called me. Someone forged your signature on a loan application. $340,000. The number hit me like a fist. Who would lend that much? It's not a legitimate lender. It's a loan shark operation disguised as an investment firm. High interest, violent collection methods. When people don't pay, he didn't finish. Dylan owes them, Mitchell nodded. A lot. And he used your ranch without your knowledge. If he'd gotten power of attorney first, it would have been legal. At 11, I drove to Chuck's auto shop with the tracker photos. The garage smelled like oil and burnt rubber. Chuck took one look at the pictures and his face went hard. Where'd you find this? Under my F-150. He led me to his office, typed the model number into his computer. Frank, this isn't just GPS. This is a kill switch device. He explained connects to the engine control unit, can remotely cut fuel, disable the engine lock, the brakes. He pulled up a video. A car driving 60 miles per hour. Then suddenly, engine dead brakes locked the car spinning out of control. Highway speed. You'd die. Can you trace who bought it? No. Dark web. Untraceable. But whoever installed it had physical access to your truck and knew what they were doing. He looked at me seriously. Frank, this is attempted murder. You need to call the police. I drove home slowly, checking every car in my mirrors. Dylan had 340,000 reasons to kill me. He had the tools to do it. And according to Mitchell, the loan sharks would come calling in 2 weeks. That was 12 days ago. I had 48 hours left. I didn't sleep Thursday night, either. Instead, I sat with a cup of cold coffee and a phone number I hadn't called in 15 years. Mike Patterson, retired detective. The only man I trusted to dig into my son's life without judgment. At 2 a.m., I opened my notebook and wrote out a timeline. 6 months ago, spyware installed. 2 weeks ago, power of attorney attempt. 1 week ago, tracker installed. 3 days ago, loan application. The pattern was clear, escalating preparation. I picked up the phone and dialed. Mike answered on the third ring, his voice thick with sleep. This better be good. It's 2 in the morning. Mike, it's Frank Morrison. Silence. Then his voice cleared. Frank, what's wrong? I need you to look into someone. My son. A long pause. Mike knew I wouldn't ask unless it was desperate. What do you need? Everything. His finances. Who he owes. What he's been doing. By tomorrow. That's a tall order. I'll pay triple your rate. Frank, I don't need your money. If you're calling about your kid at 2 a.m., it's bad enough. Give me 4 hours. At 6, my phone rang. Frank, sit down. I was already sitting. Your son is drowning. Borrowed $340,000 from a firm called Apex Investment Solutions. The loan sharks Mitchell mentioned. Worse, they're under FBI investigation, money laundering front. When people don't pay, they disappear. My blood went cold. How much time does he have? They gave him 2 weeks. That was 12 days ago. In 2 days, they'll come to collect. They'll take the ranch, with or without you on it. Mike paused. Frank, your son sold you to dangerous people? Why would he borrow that much? Mike hesitated. Gambling, online poker, crypto trading, lost everything. Plus Brittany's medical bills elective surgery insurance wouldn't cover. They're drowning. Instead of asking me for help, they decided to take it. Another pause. Frank, there's more. According to my source inside Apex, they sent someone to evaluate the collateral yesterday. Someone's been watching your ranch, taking photos, making sure it's worth 340,000. I looked out the window. The ranch sat dark and quiet. Frank, you need protection. These people don't negotiate. What do they usually do? Mike's voice went flat. They make the collateral available by removing obstacles. I'm the obstacle. Yes? In 2 days, if Dylan doesn't pay, they'll come for you. And they won't just ask you to sign papers. What should I do? Call the FBI. Call the local sheriff. Get protection. Or I could give them what they want. You mean Dylan. With evidence. With a confession. With everything. Frank, these people want the ranch. But if Dylan's in FBI custody, the collateral becomes invalid. The loan fraud gets exposed. Apex gets investigated. They lose everything. You're talking about setting up your own son. I'm talking about stopping him before he kills me. Mike gave me 2 phone numbers, one for the FBI, one for a safe house if I needed to run. I wrote them down, thanked him, and hung up. Then I stared at those numbers for a long time. By sunrise, I'd made my decision. I wasn't running. I was fighting. Friday morning, I went shopping. Not for groceries, not for feed, not for anything a man my age should be buying at 8 in the morning. I drove toward Billings with a single-purpose camera's a recorder and a cheap laptop no one but me could ever access. And before the sun went down, I needed to make a phone call that would change everything, one that might save my life, or force the confrontation I'd been avoiding. Either way, by nightfall, there would be no turning back. At 8 sharp, I pulled onto the highway and headed east. I skipped Bozeman entirely. Small towns have fast-moving gossip, and I couldn't afford curious eyes. Billings offered anonymity. Best Buy had just opened when I walked in. A young clerk approached as I studied the security aisle. Setting up a system, sir, he asked. Something like that, I said, paying in cash for 4 Blink Mini cameras and a no-frills laptop. No accounts, no cloud, nothing traceable. Back home, I installed the cameras over 3 slow, deliberate hours. The first went in the living room, hidden between Linda's old hardbacks. The second hid behind the kitchen wall clock's face. The third disappeared inside a wooden birdhouse overlooking the porch. The fourth I tucked behind a framed photo of Linda in my office. All 4 streamed only to the new laptop. The compromised one Dylan had touched stayed shut. When everything came online, I checked each angle. Not a single blind spot. At 1 in the afternoon, I called Thomas Way. Thomas, if I record my son admitting what he's done, is it admissible Montana is a one-party consent state, he said. You need him to say 3 things he installed the tracker, he knew what it could do, and he intended to use your property. That proves fraud, attempted homicide, and elder exploitation. I wrote the 3 points in my notebook, my hand unsteady. At 2, I called the number Mike Patterson gave me. FBI Billings Field Office, this is Agent Martinez. My name is Frank Morrison, I said. My son is trying to kill me, and he's tied to Apex Investment Solutions. A pause. Mr. Morrison, how do you know about Apex? Because they're holding a fraudulent loan in my name. My son used my ranch as collateral. Can you come into the office? She asked. I can't, I said. But you can come here. Tomorrow morning I'll have a recorded confession. Can you place agents at my ranch at 10 a.m. Saturday? Sir, that isn't typically. He installed a kill switch on my truck. He forged legal documents. Apex comes for me in 2 days. You can be here tomorrow, or arrive Sunday to collect my body. I hung up before she could answer. The phone rang instantly. Mr. Morrison Martinez said, I need all the details you have. For 30 minutes, I gave her everything, the tracker, the spyware forged, signatures, the loan, the timeline. When I finished, she said, I'll send 2 agents. They'll stay hidden. But if things turn dangerous, it won't, I said. Face to face, he's still my son. At 4, I practiced my questions in the mirror. Gentle at first, tightening steadily until the truth had nowhere left to hide. At 6, I called Dylan. 9 a.m. Tomorrow, I said. Just you and me. His voice trembled. About what, Dad? About what you've done? I hung up before he could protest. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the 4 camera feeds glowing on the laptop, the ranch silent around me. Tomorrow he would face what he'd become. And at 8:55 a.m., Saturday, when I heard his truck crunch on the gravel, I checked the cameras one last time. Agent Martinez and Agent Harper were already hidden in the kitchen. I stood, steadied myself, and walked toward the front door. It was time. Dylan knocked 3 times, soft, hesitant, like when he was a kid and had broken something. Brittany stood beside him uninvited. I should have known she'd come. I opened the door. I said just you. Brittany's chin lifted. Family business. I should be here. I stepped aside. They sat on the sofa. I took the chair across from them, the cameras capturing every angle. Coffee. No. Dylan's voice cracked. Dad, what's this about? I found something under my truck. I let the words sit there. GPS tracker. Professional installation. Someone who knows trucks. Complete silence. Dylan's face went white. Brittany's hand tightened on her purse. You taught me to change oil when you were 16, Dylan. You've been under that F-150 before. Brittany started to speak. Frank, why would Dylan? $340,000, I said. That's why. Dylan made a sound like all the air had left his lungs. You owe money. To Apex Investment Solutions. Dad, how did you... His voice broke. Brittany jabbed him hard with her elbow. I know everything, I said. Spyware on my laptop. Forged power of attorney. Loan using my ranch. All of it. Dylan's face crumpled. Dad, they were going to kill us. 15% per month. We couldn't pay. Dylan, shut up, Brittany hissed. Let him talk, I said. The tracker was to keep you safe. Dylan said desperately. To know where you were? Safe? I leaned forward. Or to make sure I signed papers. He hesitated. Both, maybe. I was scared. You put a kill switch on my truck. Dylan went completely still. What? Don't lie. Chuck Morrison identified it. Connects to the engine control unit. Can cut fuel lock, brakes, kill the engine at 70 miles per hour. I didn't know it could do that. Dylan's voice rose, panicked. Brittany said it was just GPS. Brittany stood up. We're leaving. Sit down, or I call the sheriff right now. You can't prove anything. I held up my phone. Photos of the tracker. Screenshots of the spyware. Copies of the forged documents. I can prove everything. Dylan broke completely. Started crying. Dad, please. We didn't want to hurt you. We needed the ranch. Temporarily. We'd pay you back. After I was dead. No. He was sobbing now. I wasn't going to. I didn't. He didn't know, Brittany shouted. I bought it. It was my idea. She realized what she'd said. Her face went pale. So you're confessing, I said quietly. I know. I turned to Dylan. Did you install the tracker? He was crying too hard to speak at first. Yes, but I didn't think. Did you access my computer? Yes. Did you forge my signature? Brittany did it, but I knew about it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Dad. I looked at my son broken and crying on my sofa. I'm sorry, too. Then I said, Agent Martinez, I think you've heard enough. Dylan's head snapped up. What? Martinez stepped out of the kitchen, Agent Harper behind her. They held up their badges. Dylan Morrison, Brittany. Morrison, you're under arrest. Wire fraud. Attempted murder. Elder abuse. Identity theft. Dylan didn't resist. Just kept crying. Dad, please, Brittany screamed. This is bullshit, Frank. Tell them. I said nothing. They led them out in handcuffs. Through the car window, Dylan looked back at me, tears streaming down his face. I didn't wave. The house felt too quiet after they left. Martinez took my statement. Dylan and Brittany would be arraigned Monday. I had gotten justice. But it didn't feel like winning. It just felt empty. 6 months. That's how long it took for justice to run its course. 6 months for winter to pass, for snow to melt, for something like peace to return. I sat on my porch that spring morning with Scout beside me, a 4-month-old border collie I'd adopted 3 months back. In my hand was Dylan's 5th letter. The first 4 sat unopened in my desk. This one felt different. I thought back to January. Dylan had stood before the judge in an orange jumpsuit 20 pounds thinner. When the judge said 8 years federal prison, 3 years supervised release, Dylan's shoulders sagged, but he nodded. His eyes found mine. I didn't look away. I didn't smile either. Brittany had fought her charges, claimed innocence. The jury disagreed. 5 years plus $100,000 fine. She'd screamed at me leaving the courtroom. This is your fault. The FBI raided Apex Investment 2 weeks later. 12 arrests. Dylan's testimony helped. My ranch was locked in an irrevocable trust now. Safe. Scout barked at a butterfly. Life had found rhythm again. Jim came by twice a week. Robert Mitchell handled the legal work. The nightmares mostly stopped. I didn't check under my truck anymore. I'd joined an elder abuse support group, gave talks at senior centers about warning signs. 3 families reached out afterward. I'd helped them see the patterns. It felt good to be useful instead of just a victim. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Morrison William Hayes from Boise. I found your number through an elder abuse forum. I found something under my car. GPS tracker. Missing documents. His daughter asking about power of attorney. I knew this story. William, don't panic. Document everything. Get a lawyer. Check your computer for spyware. Don't confront anyone yet. Why help me? You don't know me. I looked at Scout at my ranch. 6 months ago, I was where you are. You're not crazy. Protect yourself. It's not selfish. It's survival. We talked 10 more minutes. I gave him Mitchell's number. When I hung up, I felt lighter. I opened Dylan's letter. His handwriting shook. Dad, I don't expect forgiveness. Prison is hard, but I need to be here. Therapy helps. I understand what I did. You didn't fail me. I failed myself. You were right to turn me in. It saved my life. I love you. Dylan. I read it twice. Folded it. Didn't call him. Maybe someday. Not today. Scout nudged my hand. At least you're loyal, boy. The Montana sky stretched endless and blue. I thought about William fighting the same fight. Dylan in prison, hopefully becoming better. Myself at 68, alone but alive and free. People ask if I regret turning in my son. The answer is no. The alternative was letting him kill me. They say blood is thicker than water. But I learned self-preservation is thicker than blood. That's not selfish. That's survival. I kept Dylan's letter, not because I forgave him, but because maybe years from now there might be a chance. Not for what we had that's gone, but for something honest. Or maybe not. Maybe some breaks can't be fixed. Either way, I'll be here, on my ranch, with my dog, living my life, because that's what I fought for. Not revenge, not punishment, just the right to keep living, on my terms, free. Looking back at this true story, I realize the lessons I learned came too late. If you're listening to grandpa stories like mine, hoping you'll never face betrayal from your own family, let me give you advice. Don't wait like I did. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. That tracker, those helpful visits the Wi-Fi set up, my gut knew. I just didn't want to believe my son could betray me. Don't ignore the warning signs. Protect yourself first. People say I was cruel, turning in my own blood. But the Bible says in Proverbs, the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. God gave us wisdom for survival. Self-preservation isn't selfish when someone's trying to kill you. Document everything. Screenshots, photos, dates, times. Evidence saved my life. Without proof, it would have been my word against his. This true story isn't unique. Elder abuse is everywhere now. If you hear grandpa stories about families exploiting their own for money, believe them. It happens more than people think. Every true story like mine is a warning to others. I'm alive because I chose survival over sentiment. Blood may be thicker than water, but self-preservation is thicker than blood. If these grandpa stories resonated with you or you know someone facing similar struggles, leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. Share this story with your family. It could save someone's life. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss true stories that matter. Your support helps these crucial messages reach those who need them most. Thank you for listening.